Hello, Alistair.
Hi there.
Um, are you ready to start the funders forum?
Yes, was it me you wanted to kick off then, or?
Yes, I hoped you'd do a wee introduction, but I'm happy to say that one of the findings from our survey was that there was a lot of overlapping of activities, and lots of small groups were doing things in more or less in isolation, and perhaps there might be some benefit in us talking to each other a bit more and arranging a kind of structure so that things didn't overlap so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I will, in that case, I won't say too much. I will try to really kick off on that theme and bring people in if they want to comment. I mean, the comments that have been made so far are the ones I would make. Somebody made the comment about multi-year funding and the burden that exists on community groups who are spending a lot of their time applying year after year for money. I mean, I think that is all true, and it's a comment that's made in every sector. You know what I'm going to say, which is that the reason for it is that the Scottish Government isn't told from year to year what its income is. And that's not meant as a political point, but it's just a fact. I think that we do need to move to multi-year funding to avoid organisations having to spend so much time applying and reapplying. But to do that, we have to move away from a system where the Scottish Government doesn't know what its income is next year and sometimes isn't told what its income is next month by the UK Government. So that bit has to change for all the other bits to have to change. But more generally, I mean, I know that there have been some of the people who are involved in this have raised questions about Levelling Up Fund and other activities around that. Obviously, the Levelling Up Fund has not managed to hasn't managed to cover all the areas that used to be covered by European funding as well, which is another whole tangent I could go off on, but I won't. But certainly there's a need as well to work between government and local authorities and community organisations as well to ensure that we manage as much as is possible in these very difficult times to make sure that every community gets its share. I don't really know if I can say much more than that, other than really to open it up to a discussion if people want me to do that. You're muted, I think, there.
You're muted, sorry.
Yeah.
Just wondered if you could read out Alison MacDonald, who couldn't be with us, her re-message.
Okay, so Alison MacDonald from NHS Health Promotion, based in Benbecula, can't be with us, but has sent a message which is relevant to some of the themes that we covered earlier on in the day. So I'm unable to attend the day. However, I would be happy to work with the group following any actions that are taken from the events. I can tell you a really hard-working group, and following the feedback from researchers that you mentioned, I think there will be real benefit in the organisation linking in with the already established groups who are working together in various forms of partnerships, and I would be happy to help and support with this. I'm sorry I'm unable to be part of your day, but wish you a huge amount of luck with it. So that's relevant to the conversation that we've had. As I say, I can bring in anyone who wants to comment, or I can move to our next item, which is Caraidean Uist. If people don't want in, then I will do that. So with thanks to Alison for that message and that offer of help, I'll move to our next item, which is James will play a clip from Caraidean Uist about the work they do.
Hello, Mary. Thank you so much for inviting me to say something. I'm actually really sorry that I'm not able to attend your conference on the 7th and be with you today. You know, that is a great sadness, because actually Caraidean has really gained from everything that you've done. For those of you that don't know about Caraidean, we started in 2003 as a support service for those that were living with loneliness and isolation. We moved on and actually also provide governance and HR support for an alcohol and drug partnership. Now, we have evolved over the years, and post-COVID, our referral numbers were really high, and because resources were low and the functions that the statutory sector were offering were becoming less and less, Caridion's role sort of changed very slightly within the community. So we still actually organise befrienders for the one-to-one befriending, but we also actually do a lot of group work now. We discovered this actually covered more people when volunteer numbers dropped. So we're not only just dealing with loneliness and isolation, we actually deal with people with mild learning disabilities and dementia and people who otherwise need support within the community. The partnership working is paramount to Caraidean as an organisation, and the benefits of planning ahead, making sure that we've got things in the diary for our service users and for events coming up, and actually we're very good, and we do pride ourselves on the individual groups themselves working organically and asking for what they want to do, and they have really enjoyed the work that we've done with the community, and it's something that they are always looking for. I think that it would be a great sadness if the funding has come to an end, that we don't continue the funding, just because actually there isn't an awful lot, and an awful lot of the work that you do that is really important for the communities that we stay in. So it's important from where I'm sitting to ensure that the culture and the history of the place isn't diluted too much. Maui is how much the wall hanging for longevity and a legacy for what you're doing means so much to ourselves at Caraidean and the community. To have that's going to show the work of what we've been doing, and to be able to show family and friends when they come up to stay or come to see us is a real boom.
My apologies there. I think I just introduced Joanna Sinclair as James, so my apologies there. We next have a panel of people who will take questions and promote a discussion. The people I've got here, I'll just introduce them in the order I have here, and if they want to just say a word about themselves. Okay, Diane MacPherson from Lochmaddy Environmental Group and Foodbank.
Martin Va, Alistair.
Martin Va, if you want to introduce yourself, I'm sure everyone knows you.
I'm Isha Diane MacPherson. I'm currently the chair of the North Uist Development Company, who own and run the old Lochmaddy School as an environment centre. It's kind of twofold. We have a fairly major exhibition on the natural environment of Uist, focuses greatly on the geology of Uist, but we also hope, looking forward, that we could become a low carbon demonstration building, use the school possibly as an advice centre. We're in very early stages of that at the moment. Thank you.
Great, Diane. The next person I have is Donalda Haxby, Craigard. Chearsabhagh, Donalda, you're on mute.
Miduli.
Shinu.
Can you give me the link?
We can hear you now, Donalda, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Yep, Donalda Haxby. I work with Craigard Daycare Service. We support adults with additional needs in the community. So now I've kind of missed a lot of what was said earlier because I had trouble joining. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Donalda, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I'll bring in other people for a conversation. We're just going to have a conversation about working together, really. So it was really just a chance for you to introduce yourself, but we'll come back to you in a wee minute. So thank you, Donalda. And the other person, well, I'll come back in a minute to David Macleod, but the other person I've got on my list here is Norman Macleod from Taigh Chearsabhagh.
Aye. I'm the operations manager in Taigh Chearsabhagh, but I've also got responsibility for creating the museum exhibitions, which now run every 2 years. I've also been involved with working with Diane through the Environmental Centre and Lochmaddy Village Hall where there's been an appraisal done about Lochmaddy and what's actually needed in the community here. So that's been on for several months now, and we're just waiting for the final report to come out. So there are sort of moves to work together and promote one another.
Okay, right. Well, this bit of the event is really open to all of you. So just put your hands up, and also if members of the panel want to come back on things, again, just put your hands up. But it's really just a conversation, and the conversation, which, as I say, will have to close about, from my point of view, about 12:25. But maybe someone else can stand in for me after that if the conversation is flowing. So the conversation that we're hoping to have really is, what benefits can we see from liaising and working and maybe bidding more closely together? So organisations working together, and anything else at all that you want to speak about. So please raise your hand and let me know who wants to go first. Hold it in your huge. No. Diane.
Well, I'll kick off since nobody else has offered. As Norman said, we have started between the work we're doing at the old school at Lochmaddy and at Chearsabhagh to work together. But I think we all recognise that there's a lot of benefit to be gained in us working together. It's just that we've never really quite managed to structure that in any way. And I do really feel that we could benefit a lot, because throughout North Uist we have the Historical Society, Comann at Caraidean School, Chearsabhagh, the development company at the old school. They're all offering different aspects. One's culture, one's arts, one's environment, primarily. So we complement each other. We're not in competition in any way. There's also Grimsay Centre, which offers the kind of boat building heritage. And I feel there's two aspects. We could come together much better to market ourselves to visitors who come, so they could see a good trail of places to visit, but also on the funding. Now, I would like just to make one comment on the funding. Ourselves, the development company, and Uibhist at Craigard, yet another centre offering another aspect of North Uist, did work together to submit a joint application. We're not good at doing that, but we have tried it. However, we find that the funders aren't geared up to deliver something to a joint application. They want one body to be the primary actor, I suppose, and fund holder and whatnot. And that doesn't, I don't think that necessarily works. So I think there's a bit of work to be done there on the funder side to look at how they could deliver joint funding and allow us more easily to come together to apply for funding. Thank you.
Okay, before I bring in others on that theme, I should mention as well that I think we might have, I can't see everyone here just now, do we have Anne Wilson from Grimsay, since Grimsay got a mention there? I don't know if you want to say just a word about some of the many things that are going on at Kilnahady and other places in Grimsay.
Yes, thanks very much for that. I could maybe talk a bit about Grimsay Community Association, which is where I am at the moment. It was founded in 1999, basically to provide a social and practical focus for the community here, and to link up with other Uist-wide groups and support island traditions, skills, Gaelic culture, and be an information point for visitors coming to the island. This year is our Silver Jubilee, and it's 10 years since we located to this premises here in Grimsay. So we are a centre which includes a post office, a cafe, and we have a rich local history archive, including oral history recordings. We have a boat museum, 5 beautiful boats built by the Stuart family from Grimsay, who built boats over the period of 150 years here. We have a community polytunnel and an outdoor growing area, and we're a kind of vibrant a community hub with a wide range of activities going on, things like traditional ceilidhs, folk clubs, monthly talks, heritage-based workshops, health walks, quizzes in Gaelic and English. We host bingo nights, tabletop sales, soup and pudding lunches, guided walks, archaeology walks, and we've seen some lovely photographs of some collaborative work between the Commonetry and Uist Community Archaeology Group. Well, we're kind of involved in that as well, and I'm involved with the archaeology group too. So we're a busy hub. We bring people together to celebrate Grimsay's heritage and its natural history. And through our programme of activities, we're basically promoting a sense of well-being, and that's at the heart of everything that we do. We connect people both here and with the wider diaspora. And we feel that through our activities that, you know, we're helping to reduce barriers of loneliness and social isolation and foster a sense of well-being. We've got about 100 members and an enthusiastic and very dedicated group of volunteers who number just over 30. And in terms of funding, we have to find 50% of our operating costs from earned income from the shop and the cafe, and then the other 50% comes from grant funding. And we've worked with the Commonetry before. We had a very successful International Men's Day event. We work with the Uist Archaeology Group. We work with professional bodies like Cardiff University. We're involved with the primary and secondary schools. We hosted a big primary 7 transition event last year, and part of that event was delivered in Gaelic. So, you know, we feel that we aim to support and promote Gaelic, the language, the tradition, the culture in everything that we try to do. We have Gaelic signage on site. We have a lot of traditional ceilidhs. And yes, we're here and we are really keen to work in partnership. We run health walks every fortnight that's through NHS Paths for All. So we're trying to link up with people, and we worked with Chearsabhagh and Andy with our boat day that we had earlier on this year. So I think, yeah, partnership working, definitely the way forward. I feel like there are lots of ideas, lots of things we can do together. But as Diane said, that issue of one organisation taking the lead has been a bit of a stumbling block for us with some of our applications, and we've had a lot of knockbacks with funding applications in the last year. So I mean, we're really working hard to try and do better. We currently are trying to appoint a new centre manager, so I'm acting centre manager at the minute. So there's loads going on here, but we are really enthusiastic about working with our colleagues, many of whom are on the screen just now. Thank you.
Lou, thank you very much. I told you there was a lot going on in Grimsay. That illustrates that. So I'll bring in Fiona just now, and then I don't know if others want to talk about the point that Anne's just raised there about I have no idea what the answer is, but are there other ways of doing this in terms of cooperation, in terms of applying for money? So I'll bring in Fiona just now.
I think Mary had something to say.
Was it Mary? Sorry, it came up on the screen as Fiona.
It's me to thank those who've come in. All we were hoping to do as a result of our survey was to try and raise the question that there might be safety for us in numbers. I think we're all very diligent, busy, assiduous, doing things. And Diane mentioned structure, and I think that's what we were looking towards. It might be something as simple as a meeting every 6 months to try and work out the calendar ahead. For us, we've had funding for transport from our project here. We're very grateful for that, because it became a hidden cost for us, that to reach the people we really wanted to reach. Sometimes Archie had to hire a car for the afternoon, because it was cheaper than getting taxis in, and some of us don't have time to ring up and organise and explain about the taxis. So I was hoping Taxa might come in, because we'd like to find out a bit more about their transport and how that's organised, and whether there's ways of getting funding together for that sort of thing. I'll just leave it at that at the moment, but
Okay. I don't think we do have anyone from Tax Uist here, do we? No, I don't think we do. But I suppose one of the things that comes out of what Fiona is, so I'm looking at the names on the screen here. One of the things that Mary's speaking about there is, I suppose, touches on the issue of volunteer burnout, where the same people are asked again and again and again to volunteer for things. And I suppose that one of the things that occurs to me there, I don't know if it's a reasonable question, is are there other ways of working that might avoid duplication, avoid volunteer burnout because of asking so many things to be done by so few people? I've no idea again what the answer to that is, but do others want to come in any of that, or anything else at all? I should say, can I just check that I am taking the conversation in the right direction? I know that you want to talk about community engagement as well. Forgive me if I'm not taking it in the right direction. Please feel free to let me know.
That's absolutely fine if I'm still on. And it's very much what our survey showed, and then running our events. A good outcome from our Wellbeing group is that the members of the group want it to continue. We won't have the funding, but we've set up now a monthly programme of ceilidhs. Out of one of our open weekends, a very successful Comann has begun, a group of volunteers with a passion for local history and who are working on the photographic albums, have a monthly wonderful meeting which is very well attended, and there's a different topic. St Kilda Warden spoke last week to a large and very appreciative audience. So I'm just, all I'm saying is the linking, the kind of connections we could make are probably the most important thing. And it might be quite simple to all meet up and see in which ways we could help each other.
That sounds good, Mary.
Okay, I know that Diane would like back in. Forgive me if I can't see anyone. Is there anyone else with their hand up? No, Diane in that case.
Thank you, Alistair. I'm tentatively going to offer perhaps something that may help us come together. Through the development company, we are working closely with Uist Wind at the moment. We are hoping that the Community Benefit Fund may start flowing before too long. And we hope from that to be able to develop a joint post. And that post would be supporting the development company in its work, and could, I think, could possibly offer to try and bring these groups together if there was a task there, if you see what I mean, to bring folk together and work out a mechanism for working together, what people would like. So it's a little bit off. And even once we are absolutely sure of the funding, but we're kind of 95% there, we still have to employ somebody, and that's no easy task, as everybody will know these days. But I think Mary's right. Volunteers are at full stretch, and we need, I think, somebody who could dedicate their time to bringing folk together, and possibly we can offer that over the next year. Let's say, let's not be too optimistic about the timescale. Could I also just mention that Sheena Stewart's been trying to get in? She can hear but can't get in.
Oh, I see. Okay. I don't know if anyone else is able to. Has she tried to go out and come back in again? That might be the answer.
James, if she's coming as an attendee, she may need James to flip her over to speaker mode. I don't know if you can do that, James.
Hi, Sheena. Would you be able
I've got a
to
message
change
here.
your
Sheena
name?
would like, would you, oh, sorry, that's the chat, beg your pardon.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Sheena, would you be able to update your name so I know who to invite in, please? That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, perhaps I'll just come back in again, James, if that's not working, because it'd be good to get Sheena in. Anne.
It was good to hear Diane's comment just then. And I was thinking that in terms of sharing skills, which is a little bit like what Diane was speaking about, we could think sort of more ambitiously than that, because we currently are trying to appoint a new centre manager. And it kind of struck me, really, I think through a conversation with Diane, that there were other people who were also looking for people to fill posts. And maybe, I know it would maybe take a bit of working out as to who was going to pay this person, but there would be no reason why, if we felt that we needed to appoint somebody as a manager or a fundraiser or that sort of thing, that post couldn't be a post where the person was working across a few organisations. I guess somebody would have to be the lead person that was going to pay that person, but I'm sure that could easily be worked out. So in terms of skills sharing, so there's maybe a bit less for volunteers to do, but you've got, I mean, if we ever got in a financial position to appoint a fundraiser, which would be amazing, then that person could be shared across various organisations. And I mean, we're looking for a manager, but maybe other places are looking for a manager or a whatever to do something. So I kind of like that idea of being creative. And I think with a background in teaching, I got used to shared headships and that kind of thing. And it's the same sort of idea, really.
Great, thank you. Haramage?
Yeah, I think the shared work is the way ahead in this current financial climate that we're in at the moment. You know, one of the main ones we're talking about is actually promoting where we are when things are happening. So, I mean, obviously somebody could be in charge of marketing, and the other one that we find here is HR is becoming a real minefield as well when you do take anyone on. Now, if you look at North Uist population, 1,200, let's say, we've got 3 Comann, Uibhist, Taigh, the environmental centre, and 3 village halls between 1,200 people. So you can see the overlap that has to be done just to keep these organisations going. There's a lot happening for a very, very small area. I mean, where my wife comes from, there's about 4,000, 5,000 in her, what they say, village. There's 1 village hall, and that's it. There's nothing else. You've got to go about 4 or 5 miles further away to another place if you do a shopping. So we do have a huge amount here, but just coordinating it all. And I think, like Anne said there, it's somebody that could work across all the organisations would be fantastic.
It is a good point, Norman, that the number of committees in the Western Isles, I haven't sat and counted them. You've counted them, some of them for North Uist, but it is unusually high. And the number of people volunteering in the Western Isles is really unusually high. At the last count, it was like twice the UK average of people who are volunteering, and many of those are serving as office bearers on committees. I suppose that was my point about volunteer burnout. Again, I'm not recommending any course of action, but it's interesting to hear that you mentioned that, the number of committees involved. Does anyone else want to come in?
I just think Donalda has had quite a few moves with Craigard since it was in Lochmaddy, and I think she could say a little bit about our our afternoons that we used to spend together, just to say how probably her group might have benefited from looking at old objects and listening to traditional tunes and having the chance to be interested in the centre and what we were showing people.
Yes, thanks, Mary. I wasn't sure when I would come in and try and say something because, you know, we're calling a daycare service part-time, 3 days a week, and we're supporting a small number of adults with additional needs. And definitely the time we were spending with yourselves in Carnage School, that was the highlight of our week. Obviously up until COVID hit, and then things fell by the wayside then because we had to relocate, and then there was transport issues, which you touched on earlier as well. So yeah, it's, and other community resources as well, like the, you know, the Kennedy Centre and Chearsabhagh, and that we do our best to access them all, but just traveling the distances is what sort of eats into our time, and then if we don't have transport available, it makes it quite awkward for us. But we are so indebted to all the volunteers, and especially in the Comann yourselves, every Thursday giving up your time to spend time with us and making our week, our Thursday afternoon very exciting. So music and singing and cake and yeah, a lot of fun.
Good. Sounds great. Norman, did you want back in?
No, I've just forgot to put my hand back there. Sorry.
Very good. Okay. Right. Diane.
Can I? So sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to ask.
Donalda,
yeah,
and then Diane.
No, I was just going to say, would it help if I came off to let someone else on, because obviously I don't know if I can stay on listening, or would it?
I think you should be. I think you should be fine. If you don't want to take part, you should be able to mute your microphone. Can you?
Yeah, I can do that.
And
Okay.
come back in again just whenever you want.
Okay, thanks.
Diane.
Sorry, you'll think I've got far too much to say, but I'm actually speaking on behalf of Sheena now, who's texting me. She can hear everything, she can't get in. She is very keen to say that UCVO are happy to offer assistance with funding applications. So that's it.
Okay. Do organisations find, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but do organisations find funding applications an onerous task?
Yes.
We're going to throw that one out there to see what people think.
Absolutely.
Mary, is it? I can't see who that is. In you come. You're muted, I think.
Honey, Uist. They are so time consuming. I think one of the pitches we want to make this afternoon to the funders is the notion that small voluntary groups like ourselves, we should flip the model. It's a bit cheeky, but if we could write out one big proposal for the refurbishment of the school, and twice a year the funders got together for small groups without paid people to do this kind of thing, and looked at the single application, they might then be able to say, well, I'm happy to promote the collections, and it could be called the name of the sponsor. We're happy to promote the infrastructure, the heating, the renovation of the heating. We have tried, since we were unsuccessful with levelling up, which was a great disappointment, we have tried to think in terms of partitioning different bids. But then it's very onerous to keep reporting back on, we did have funding for a new heating system, but we couldn't install it at the time because we didn't have funding for the way the whole building was going to be done. We lost out on that funding. So I think if a special case could be made for voluntary associations, who really have the least resource, strong assets in what they do, but the least resource for all the time consuming thing, if they could kind of get together twice a year and look at these bids, big capital bids, it would probably help us a lot. As I say, it's only because idiots like myself have given up perhaps as much time as they used to work full time to do this with a passion for the place, the people, and for good things to happen, well-being of a community.
Yes.
That these things get done, and we need to make our voices heard, and for funders to have new ways of looking at us. Sorry, that's my pitch.
On that pitch, I don't know if is there anyone here from any organisation dealing with funding applications? No.
They're coming in the afternoon.
They're coming in the afternoon. Okay, well, those might be good questions to raise with them later on in that case. I've taken the conversation down this route. If people want to continue, I'm very happy. But are there other themes that people want to pick up on just now beyond funding applications? Anything else that people want to talk about? Okay, Haramage.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe worth talking about the younger generation as well. In 2018, we worked with Scoil Uist to create a junior Comann, which ran successfully for a few years. Just trying to reseed the Comann for later years. We did an exhibition with the children, which was I don't know if you can see it there. Very bright, very colourful, where children collected objects from they had at home that would be of importance in 2048. So when they were roughly 40 years old and taking an interest probably in their own heritage. They created the exhibition, they created the plinths for the exhibition, they even organised the opening for the exhibition, so it was giving them skills as well. So maybe not to forget the young people and include them, because they are our future.
Very good. I suppose one thing that comes that occurs to me than that as well is there will be young people, children who've come from other places, and how do we plug them into the history and the heritage and make them aware of it? I mean, it's sometimes said that you can't love something you don't know anything about, and so you have to find ways, shared platforms or shared spaces where people who have lived perhaps for a long time in the island, people who've just moved in, can actually speak to each other and find out what it is that we're asking them to identify with. There's also the problem, vast problem, which we're not going to solve this morning, which is that there is a national anxiety about how much many young people are plugged into the world offline, and how you get people offline long enough to take an interest in their community. Now, those are all kind of stereotyped positions, but there are big questions that I suppose, Norman, when you're talking about dealing with the younger generation, do they come up as well? I don't know. And you come.
Yeah, well, when we did that exhibition, a lot of the stuff was modern technology that was being handed over. That's something that's going to be interesting of them. So it's the angle you take, I think. I mean, we've also worked with St Andrews University with the school as well, creating virtual models. That's one route that you can go down. The interest is certainly there if you present it in the right direction, I think.
Good. I just said that to be provocative. I didn't have an answer. Anyone else want to come in? No?
Mary.
Yeah. Just to say that Scoil Uist tour, you'll be hearing about after lunch, those who stay, but they have been involved in a small project where they were drawing maps around their houses of what made them feel happy, their own well-being. And again, the three things that made them most happy, this was just the P7s, 6s and 7s, were playing with their dogs. This will be repeated later on, outside. We didn't include anything inside their homes. It was just, they drew maps of the area where their house was. And we discovered that the boys wanted to play football at the school, and parents from Berneray after school and on Saturdays were driving their children down to the school football pitch and hanging about and taking them home again. So I would think that we have involved the children so far a small bit, and they've also been recording on their phones the names of place names, little wells and hillocks, for a map. But and this, you'll hear about a bit more about this afternoon. But what we found with the children again was the transport issues. Everything's so scattered, and parents have to be very dedicated. The third thing that was important was neighbours and grandparents. They enjoyed visiting neighbours and grandparents and talking to them. So the connections with dogs, football, parents, grandparents, and we do hope that they will continue to work with us. They've done a beautiful project called Claddagh on the local environment, which Fiona helped with as well. We couldn't have the exhibition because COVID came, but they were going to curate that exhibition themselves. I agree with Norman, it's really hugely important.
Great, that's really encouraging. Thank you very much for that. Anyone else? Dan?
The section of the population we haven't really covered are the people in the middle. We've talked about volunteer overload and how stretched we are. And it has to be said, on the whole, and apologies to anybody that doesn't fall in this category, but most of us are of an age. Trying to be as polite as possible. We need to engage with the parents of the children to become involved in our organisations and take them forward. But they're tuned in to what the kids would like too, you know, so they can bring so much forward. And I know everybody is busy, but there seems to be an awful reluctance to become involved. And I think that's another challenge we have to crack. I think that resource is almost as important as the funding.
There's a couple of really interesting points in that. So the first one is that you mentioned people being of a certain age who are very involved in these organisations. I suppose you mentioned this, I think it was yourself earlier on, that part of the reason for that is that it's or somebody else actually mentioned that it's a full-time job. So if you have a full-time job, you can't really do this one. So that's part of it. There's also, but people might be able to put me right here, but there is also anecdotally evidence that post-COVID, people have been a bit less willing to join organisations and a bit keener to stay in the house, not because of COVID, but just because they've got in the habit of staying in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a fair comment or not, but some organisations feel that it's been more difficult to get volunteers post-COVID, but I don't know.
I think we're all struggling, Alistair. I think we're all struggling to attract new people onto our committees, possibly because they see the amount of work that a lot of us have to not sign up to, but end up being involved in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, folks. Unless there's other people who want in, and unless there's other people, please, as I say, keep me right if the conversation has been steered away from any areas that you wanted to cover. Please just come in. If not, I think there was a lot in that was, oh no, I can see someone waving. I can't see who they are. Though.
Yes,
Anyhow.
Loriana's wanting to have a.
Yeah. I am thinking this project and what happens here is immensely important. But I am an incomer and I live in Berneray. And here in the panel, we are 2 people of Berneray. And I ask myself, where does North Uist finish? Post-wise, I get the post Berneray, Church Road, North Uist. So, and as loving and passionate about the island of Berneray, which has at the moment only 1 small child,
That's right.
which is a problem, and we are overage. But I would ask here, the North Uist community, Berneray has a Berneray Historical Society, has a little museum, has a wonderful collection, and people, somebody in the group sends out regularly a newsletter, and so much has been done, but it doesn't exist here. So, you know what I mean? I mean, I say to the people who listen, please can Berneray and North Uist not have visions or plan together? That is my passion.
Living together.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say. It's like a little island, too small, and it stands before big decisions because it will become probably, it will buy out and so on. And it needs maybe help. I don't know. Yeah, you say something.
Yes, I think that is the remit, supposed remit of the Forum of Communities. I don't want to tread on toes there because they do have forum meetings every month of all the communities. But I don't know, I think that's another wee bit of infrastructure that needs to be threaded, woven into the tweed, the fabric of the of this discussion.
Okay.
If we're only raising these issues, that's the intent of this forum, to look and see what they are, and out of this recommendations may come together. I'm not interested in policy. I'm interested in action.
Well, I suppose that's I know a common theme that does come out of consultation is, I talked a bit about volunteer burnout. There is also such a thing as consultation fatigue. Now you're clearly aiming to avoid that. You're clearly aiming to come up with concrete actions, and you'll be looking to others to help make them real. And yes, we don't want to get into a situation where we talk for the sake of talking and nothing happens and people become disappointed. So on that note, I'm happy to pick up on what it is that you have recommended. I constantly find myself explaining to people that I can't fix the world's problems, but I can represent you, and I can represent you to agencies who do have money and who do have budgets and who do have influence. So I would be very interested to know what the outcome of today is and the kind of things that you'd like to see happen. So please keep in touch. But I am going to have to go and run off to a meeting about, I think I lose track from hour to hour, but I think I'm going to chair a meeting about hydrogen energy. So I will run off and do that, and very much enjoyed being with you. So tapaluvula, agus Dawson Kinjage Kushin Gaman Jew Fesker. Okay, tapaluv.
Bye bye.
Top